Oh, who's the third person? Who's the other one behind you guys?
Here's my that's the baby, and that's my other sister.
Oh, all right. Very cool. All right. Well, welcome again, everyone, to our second session for
Okay.
the series of ABCs of Wealth, which we're doing with friends from around the world. It's great to have you guys back. I see only one of the computers from our friends in Cameroon, in Boa, but I'm sure they'll be joining us. So just a quick few things, and then we'll get into the lesson plans for today. We hope that the information that we presented last week was beneficial. I know a lot of you have done your assignments. Thank you so much that you've been working on the assignments very hard. So first question for today, in the chat, please put in there, who did you talk to about what you learned last week outside of the group that you've been? So did you get a chance to talk to anyone about what we discussed, what we learned together? So if you can put that in the chat, and I need to open up my chat so I can see. Because remember, this information is not just for us, it is for everyone. Everyone needs to learn um, what we are all learning together. Financial education is not just for us, it's for everyone. All right, so while you're doing that, I'm making our team members co-host. And please, if you haven't done so, rename your screen name to say where you are dialing in from. So that would be greatly appreciated. All right. So we'll do a quick review of what we did last week and then dive into the lesson plan for today. So last week we started with talking about our how we align our spiritual and material affairs together. We read some scriptures from different religions, from different sacred books about. Let me share my screen so we can see that one. I need to be on the right screen before I share. This one and this one. There we go. So, and why does it always give me trouble and not allow me to share the right screen? All right, it's not letting me see the correct screen in here. I'm just going to share my old screen. All right. So these were some of the scriptures that we read together. We learned that there are certain goals that are set for us. Those who have any spiritual background, there are mainly three goals that are those that believe that there's a God and there's the whole system that we are trying to get close to Him. That is our concentration in life, and not necessarily worrying about life necessities such as food, water, clothing, shelter, and health. Just like the flower that God created, He provides for everything, and then so are we. Now, that doesn't mean that we sit around and don't do anything and just expect God to send us everything, but we have to work hard to attain His presence, as has been said in many different uh, books. The next goal is to prepare ourselves for the next stage of life. For those that believe there is life after here, that's what we are. And today we'll be working a little bit on that, on the goals that we set for ourselves. And then the third one is to help this, to be a service to humanity, to help this ever progressing civilization move forward. We do not live by ourselves, but we are helping everyone move forward together. And then we talk a little bit about what are the things that are holding us back, because we set our goals, but then we get enticed by electronics, by different things that we see. Our desires are there to help us achieve our goals, but also sometimes they pull us away a little bit from uh, getting us into that goal. Oh, sorry. I need to be careful what I'm looking at. Uh, and then while should get to a point where we don't have to worry about life necessities, then that means we should have a lot of free time. So what do we do with that free time? And that goes back to us being a service to humanity, again, forgetting our own selves and turning our eyes and energy toward our neighbors and education of other people. And I want to share something here about being a sacrifice, because we will definitely talk about that. Over the weekend, I learned that our friends in Cameroon, especially those who are attending in person, uh, many people made huge sacrifices for that group to get together. As you saw in the pictures, they have printed t-shirts, the cost of running the internet for them. Those have all been sacrifices from the individuals. They did not charge the participants, but they sacrificed even some of their life comforts so it can be done. All right, I'm going to stop sharing here and see if we had any comments. All right, so Genome says, I discussed it with my family members. Okay, very good. Now they had the question. Elliot says, I spoke to a friend about the importance of spiritual well-being and also about the hidden treasures that we possess. All right, very good. So that is a exercise that hopefully we all get into by sharing what we learn and not just keeping it to ourselves in there. All right, so let's see. Did I have? Oh, another thing I wanted to share is the program that we're doing. As you can imagine, we are going through it fairly quickly. So we're doing this over a 4-day, 4 Mondays, total of 12 hours. But if you were to do the full program, it would take easily 20 to 24 hours to complete this program. So I wanted to make sure everyone does understand that there's a lot more to what we are presenting and doing in these live sessions. There's a lot more in there. All right, so if you have opened your, let me share my screen again. So today our lesson plan is about patience. And I'm trying to share my screen. There we go. It allows me to do it. So if you have your online worksheet open, this is where we are. We start with the table of content and we are going to the lesson plan patience. That's where we are going. So patience is something that it's one of those treasures, again, that we have within us. We are born with it, but it needs a lot of development. I think from childhood, we are not necessarily patient. That's why we cry. Well, that's one way the babies talk to their parents, saying that what they need milk, they need to be hugged. So, but they don't necessarily maybe show patience. And even as we are young children, we want things. This is very natural for us to want things. We see things, especially now these days in TV, in our phones, in advertising. We see a lot of things, and our human nature says that we want a lot of stuff. So next question in the chat is, what are the things that you don't have and you like to have? This is not about life necessities, so not food and clothing and things, but items that you don't have and you like to have. So please give it some thought. What are some of the things that you like to have in your life that you don't currently possess? You can put it in the chat, and I'm gonna try to get my chat up. Sometimes the screen is a little tricky on me. When I share screen, the chat doesn't necessarily pop up. Move things around. And if somebody wants to share, if you have your microphone open, what is it that you like to have? So let me see, I'm getting nothing in the chat. All right. So we'll just start with an example that we have in here. Nari and Jade, if you guys see anything, or Irma, if you guys see anything in the chat, please let me know. My chat is not popping up.
Yeah, we have something from Faith, Alex.
Go ahead, because I can't see
Wants a truck, and that would allow her to access all terrains.
Okay, all right, very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So the way we set our goals is, this is what we have in our worksheet. we start by the date when we set, when we, like today's date. Today's date is May 10, if I'm not mistaken. So let's say if I want to buy an iPhone, this is the cost. I look at the cost. I can put either I can cut the picture of what I like to have, or I can put a link to an online place where I can see that. Then I'm going to decide how long is it going to take me, depending on the type of work that I do. If I work or if I do extra chores at home. So that's when I think, how long is it going to take me to save what I want? And then we need to come up with a plan of action, either do extra work or extra chores, whatever that is. And it always takes some sacrifice. I know that a lot of us play video games or just go on internet, on social media, and spend a lot of time on it. While we do need to be entertained and sometimes free our mind from work or school, but is that really being conducive? Should we just do those, or can we give up a little bit? And then what is the purpose? Why do I want that iPhone? Is it just because my friend has it? Is it just because that is the newest phone in the market? Do I really need three or four cameras on a phone? Is that something that I have to have, or can I do without it? And the best scenario is that we don't want to buy things for just competing or showing off to other people just because other people have it. That is not necessarily a good reason to buy something. All right. Do we have anybody else who shared what they want? Why can't I? Did anybody else share anything, Nari, or not?
No, not so far, Alex.
Not so far. Oh,
I think everybody's a little sleepy still this morning.
Well, we are the one. The morning in Africa, it's like 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, then they're tired. They've had a long day.
that could
I'm
be.
trying to help you guys out here.
All right. Well, that's okay. I'm sure in the breakout sessions, that will begin to talk.
Yeah, we'll get to talk about it in the breakouts.
Yeah. Okay. So while we have our personal goals, it's also important to have family goals too. I mean, the process is the same, but also looking at family goals, because it's important for us to support while we have, let's say, maybe I want an iPhone, maybe my wife wants a new camera or something. I don't know, whatever that is. But not only we need to understand each other's goals, but be also supportive of it. And then family goals too. Family goals usually go like traveling, taking a holiday with family when we can travel again. Still, I know many of us cannot travel, or buying a place to live, or buying a car in areas where that is a common process. So that's the family goal in there.
Alex,
Yes.
Elliot would like to have an HP laptop, and Juliana says she wants to have an Apple Watch.
Okay, very good. And you see, this is very common. This is human nature. We want things. There's nothing wrong with wanting things.
Oh, Daniela wants, this is cool, an online trading course to learn how to trade with better chances of growth and minimizing risk. With the course, I'll be able to make knowledgeable decisions. And for that, she needs between $500 to $1,000. So Daniela's already picked up on the process here, that you make a goal of what you want, but then you need to know how much it will cost. So the next step for you, Daniela, would be what's your plan to get that $500 to $1,000? What would you have to give up, or what would you have to do to get more money? So that would be your next step.
All right, very cool. So you see that this is the process, and throughout our lives, we are continuously doing this. Doesn't matter how young or once we get to our older ages, we're always planning for the next stage. And this is called investing in our future. So I'm going to pull this up and we'll go back. And this has a lot of spiritual background into it, and we'll go back to our scriptures. But we want to look at our life. We've tried to put our entire life from the point of creation until when there's no end to it, of what is happening in our lives. So I'm not sure how many of us remember what happened while we were in the mother's womb. I don't remember what happened to me, but we know generally. In the mother's womb, in that 9 months, the mother is providing for us. The mother provides for all the life necessities, all the nutrients, everything that we need is provided to the little baby inside the mother's womb. And in that little space, we are developing what we need for this world. So we develop fingers, eyes, ears, lungs, all the body parts, everything is developed in there. And for most of those body parts, there's no need for them. We are not breathing oxygen in mother's womb. We are not eating anything through the mouth. But all of that is needed for this world. So just imagine we come to this world and we don't have an eye. We're blind in one eye. That eye will never develop. Or if you're missing a finger or any other body parts, everything that we have will continue to grow. But what we don't have, we don't gain. So in that next stage of life, now here on Earth, we've broken it down into like three categories. In our childhood, for the first 21 years, our parents provide for us. I think all the loving parents and all the parents provide food, water, shelter, clothing, and health. And then we concentrate on gaining education. And toward the, like, once we get to about 15, 16, maybe we begin to gain some experience, maybe make some money, do some more chores, or have a little bit of a side job that we start. So that is what's happening in our first 21 years. And then for our adult life, this is not exact. The 49 years is not exact. It's just a approximate. We begin to use the education and the experience that we gain to start earning money from active income. We'll talk more about active and passive income. And then we continue our education experiences continues. We don't stop learning and we don't stop gaining additional experience. And then our hope is that by the time we get to the later years in our life, when physically we cannot work, we may still continue to work when we are 70 or older, but physically it's going to get a lot harder. So that is when we want to rely, we don't want to rely on our physical body to earn a living, to make money, but having a passive income. And again, we'll talk more about active and passive income. And that is the time when we want to enjoy our life. Just enjoy, travel, read books, write our life story, whatever it is that we want to do. And then throughout this whole time that we are on Earth, remember, we're going back to the example of the mother's womb. We need to also, for those, again, that believe that there is life after this world, that we were preparing for the life after this world. Knowing God, loving God, having faith in God, being a service to humanity, doing philanthropic deeds, forgetting about our own self and our own desires and needs, um, becoming detached from this world, and developing our character traits, becoming holy. And so, also, for those that believe there is life after here, or even if there's not, we want to leave a legacy. How do we want to be known by? Do we want to leave something behind that say, oh, this person, he or she was so great, started this program or did this, helped so many people. And that's why often we pray for those that have departed. And based on the scriptures, there's life after here and will continue to grow. So the last exercise of this patience is about thinking about what legacy do I want to leave. So I want to put that question in the chat, and we'll get more chance to talk about it in the breakout session. How do you want to leave this world? What do you want to do to improve it? So you can think of, some people may want to become a doctor, but then becoming a doctor is a milestone. Healing the sick is the ultimate results of becoming a doctor. Or if you like to become a teacher, that is educating the illiterate. So in the chat, please write what is your ultimate goal in life? what do you want to leave behind, or how do you want to be known by? And then I'm going to stop sharing so I can see my chat finally. All right, I see that our friends from Cameroon have come online. Yes. Yes. Your sound is breaking up. The sound is not good at all. You cannot...
Ask him to have everyone mute except himself, so there's no resonance.
Okay.
All
I would
right.
like to share my legacy, what
Okay.
I'll leave behind. Okay, like for my goals, I wanted to set up a vocational training center whereby I will train my community members with life-saving skills for economic empowerment. So setting up this vocational center, when I'm gone, they're going to remember me because I've given something to create an innovation to empower community members to become economically empowered. That is what I want they should always remember me about. That is a legacy I would like to keep behind when I'm gone. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. That is definitely great. So we'll get ready to go into our breakout sessions. I just want to share one more thing before we go into our breakout sessions. So going back to not this one right here. So back to the file where we have the scriptures. This is where it's talking about that how we prepare ourselves for the next world. From the Bible, it talks about laying not up for yourself treasures upon earth, where it's talking about the material treasures, the material stuff that we so easily get attached to, but laying up treasures for ourselves in the heaven, which is talking about the character traits that we need to do that. Then the example of what's happening in the mother's womb is here. So if you haven't studied these, I really encourage you to do that during this week. And it is talking about that the next world is the world of illumination. We need to be radiant stars. We need to help humanity doing things. And then going back again, understanding that there is a lot of forces that's working against us. Particularly here in the Western world, we are immersed in a sea of materialism. Everything is all about material stuff. There's lacks of morality. There's so much entertainment that we get consumed by entertainment that we forget that we need to set higher goals. The advertising, our news, social media that's continuously pulling us in. So understanding, and all of these could be just a hour session to think about how do we conquer and not get consumed by all these forces in here. All right. So Jade, are we ready for the breakout sessions?
We are. The breakout sessions are all set up. I will open them in just a second. I just wanted to make sure that the questions for each breakout session are in line with the actual question number on the schedule, and the facilitator should know, just so if you're in room 2, then you'll be doing question 2. If you're in room 3, you'll do question 3. So that way we don't have overlap. So I will go ahead and open up all the rooms now. You should be invited to join the breakout room. So just go ahead and click to join. And Alex, I'll be joining room 1. I just wanted to stick around to make sure everybody
You can go ahead and do that. I'll stay here.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so there you go. Castori, do you see the button to join your group?
I don't see the questions for
Not the
room
questions. You
one.
need to, did something pop up that says join a breakout room? Because you need to go to a breakout room. You're assigned
Okay.
to one. Well, I cannot force you to go to a breakout room. Did anything
So-
pop up that says join a breakout room? Eric, Alan, if you're there, you need to go to your breakout room, please. Okay.
Hello. Hello, I'm Elliot. I'm from Cameroon. Boya to be precise at the moment, but I'm more based in Douala. So I came over to Boya for a weekend.
Great. Welcome. I will then turn
Thank
it
you.
over to Dree.
Good morning. My name is Dree Berry. I'm in San Diego with you, Jade. Waiting for the May grader to lift today. Hopefully we have a nice sunny day.
You see it in the background here.
Right. I'm looking out my window right now, like, okay, it's gonna come. So I started this because I need to have purpose and goals and make sure I write them down and be ready for what I know my future has in store for me. So I'm really looking forward, enjoying all the different exercises we're doing to realize where we're trying to go.
Great. Welcome. Okay, next we have Jean-Paul or Lloyd.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hi.
My name is John Paul. I'm from Cape Town, South Africa, the best part. And yeah, it's beautiful sunny weather. And also, yeah, what made me come here is to focus more on financial and also to become more disciplined and to help myself become more focused in achieving my goals to go forward, because it's easy to get distracted. So that's why I
Great. And it sounds like you have some other participants with you as well. So we are great to have them in as well.
thank you for audience.
Janam.
Yeah, hello. I am Jeenam from I'm living in Mumbai from in India, and I just wanted to learn how do I follow task-based goals. So
Great. Welcome. And if Yvonne or Faith, either of you, I know you guys said, one of you said your microphone wasn't working and one said you needed a couple of minutes. If you guys would like to introduce yourself now, go ahead. If not, we will go ahead and open the question. So I'll wait a brief second. Just
it wasn't the moment that a business would be handling, but I didn't want to wait for it to arrive at a better moment without affecting the finances of the business. And it also sometimes for not only lack of patience, but the planning, I've ended up needing in the need to take a quicker solution because I haven't been able to afford being patient. Yeah, so I do think that in my case also wanting like things to come quicker have led me to take businesses that could have been successful, just pulled out, saying, no, it's not gonna work, and it's simply not. I didn't even allow it to grow, to make it happen. I was wanting it right there for me quickly. Yeah.
Yes.
That's all I want to share.
That's great.
We are living in a society where youth are now going wayward. There's lack of morality. So I'm trying to come up with a therapy center to take care of children, street children, take care of children with moral delinquency, with moral problems. So for me to come up with that idea and trying to actualize it, I really need patience, because it will take me time to gain grounds, to gain a connection, grounds, income. So patience is very important to me at this level, because I really need to be patient to get more ground, get more connection, get finance, and so on. So it's you will just have to accept it and eventually.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, would someone else like to share? I'm sorry, your name again? That was awesome. Would you just?
My name is Deborah.
Deborah?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, say again.
Deborah.
Okay, it was Deborah. Okay, that's what I thought at first, but the sound keeps dragging, sounding weird. Okay, cool. Thank you very much, Deborah. That was awesome. Would someone else like to share what money has to do with patience and what patience has to do with your finances, or what kind of legacy you would like to leave? Oh, great. Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm Emmanuel.
Hi, Emmanuel. You guys have very nice biblical names.
Okay, I would like to talk about patience with respect to acquiring wealth. I think patience is one of the most important virtues that a human being is supposed to have when he wants to accomplish greatly. And we all know that if you want to have a great seed, if you want to have a great harvest, you need most of the trees that bear
But it is not an easy game. The closest thing that we have to it is baseball here, and it's a much softer game. The ball that they play for cricket is hard, and my hats off goes to cricketers because they have to have some serious skills. So, well, thank you for sharing, Janam. That is great. Is there anyone else that would like to share about the legacy that they would like to leave behind? Jean-Paul has his hand raised. Go ahead.
So what I want to do is build multiple streams of income and also education on younger students on financial education to get a better understanding, because majority, if you look at majority of people out there when they finish education, the majority of them end up in debt, and that's something that is very, very important to educate from a young age, and it's not taught.
Okay, so to share financial literacy with not only the youth there, but with the entire community.
Correct.
Okay, great. And Dree, I also see your hand raised. Did you have something you wanted to share about the legacy you want to leave behind?
I do. I want to leave a legacy of financial freedom, because my family don't understand that. And I know they don't understand it because I didn't understand it. And since I'm the oldest cousin in my family, I feel it's my job to teach what I learned, because we have a lot of kids in our family that's, don't understand that you don't live from paycheck to paycheck, that you need to think bigger than that, because the person that's paying you is thinking bigger than that. So not everyone is going to be an owner, not everyone's going to be an entrepreneur, but everyone can have their finances settled to where you know that you have enough in your account to pay your bills for 3 months, 6 months. Going with this pandemic that happened, we need to have those resources available, not calling me auntie saying, auntie, can you spare $100? Auntie, because I believe in being a lender, not a borrower. So that's the legacy I want to leave for my family, is that we can be financially free.
That's great. And that definitely ties in with the program here. I think that's some of the same thinking in terms of how this program first got designed. Our executive director who's in here right now, Alex, he started with his wife just in terms of thinking about their children, and it has kind of grown from there, and being able to share that knowledge and experience with others. And so it is definitely a huge blessing. I do see that our room is going to close in a few minutes, so I wanted to make sure we have everyone have the chance. I know Faith's microphone is not working, but if you wanted to share a legacy that you want to leave behind in the chat, I can go ahead and read it out loud to everyone to share. And the same with Yvonne. And if you aren't able and still need a few moments, that's fine as well. I just wanted to make sure we had enough time for everyone to get a chance to share. And for those,
it resulted in a lot of lost money. So I understand the lesson too, very well. So I want to appreciate all of you for the thoughtfulness you put into these questions and the understanding that you want to have in cultivating and developing patience when it comes to managing our finances. Thank you very much. I think we're just about finished. I think we have maybe a minute or two before we go back into our regular classroom. And I really am enjoying this format. It's really good because it continues to have us think about the concepts, how we have our own personal relationship with the concept, our own experiences, and how we can improve in the future in the way that we are cultivating these treasures in managing our finances. It's very important that we really understand the core principles of managing money, because if we have the characteristics and we develop the best characteristics, the best treasures, then we will have the tools to do a better job in coming back into our finances and doing the best possible work. Okay, so we have less than a minute and we're going to return to our main session. And I'm going to present quickly the things that you all shared, but the next time I'm going to give that to
All right, welcome back, everyone. Oh, still, is everybody back? Seems like it. Seems like we lose some friends. But anyway, seems like we were back. All right, I hope you enjoyed your breakout session. So let's see, who wants to go first? Irma, I see you up on the screen first. So Irma, you're muted. There we go.
Okay. All right, great. Our question was, has not having patience in the past affected your finances? If so, what did you learn from the experience? And we were talking about the concept of patience and how, you know, the lack of patience or exercising patience and how that helps us. And Daniela was relating to us her experiences in business and how she would make, you know, decisions in business to spend money in a certain way, and that because she wanted to be in a hurry to see it come back quickly, that it didn't work out as when she would exercise patience and then take her time and go a little more slowly. She says that she has had experiences with patience and impatience in her business dealing. Castori shared with us that he was impatient with some of his investment decisions, and that he could see how being more patient in making those decisions has yielded a better outcome for him. And Epeti shared with us a story of her own experiences in getting into an investment program, but what it turned out to be was a get rich quick scheme. And so she said she had already started, you know, saving and planning, you know, to get some things done, and that she heard about this plan and she went ahead and just dropped some money into it that, you know, she was using, looking forward to use for a future time. And she said that it turned out very badly because it was a get rich quick scheme that everyone lost money on it. And she said she really learned a huge lesson from that experience. So that's what our class shared with us in our breakout session.
Very cool. Thank you so much. All right. Jade, would you like to go next?
Sure. So our group, the question that we answered was, what legacy would you like to leave behind? And we had several people share. First was Elliot in Cameroon, and he shared about the legacy he wanting to leave behind having to do with education. And we talked about access to education and how country instability can affect youth access to education and how that impacts generations. And so he talked about wanting to contribute to make sure that regardless of any political economic instability within a country, that access to education really does not impact generations as much. And then we had Janam in India share about the impact wanting to do with being a cricketer, so within sports, and how working towards becoming a cricketer and not really sure in terms of how that might impact not only just India, but the rest of the world, but really thinking that within that realm, it wanting to be with sports and specifically within being a cricketer. And for those that don't know, cricket is a very intense sport. It's nothing here in the US, we don't have anything. I mean, people say sometimes baseball, but I've seen cricket being played. It's a much longer, more intense game. So it takes a lot of training. And that is where Janam is currently. And then John Paul shared with us that the legacy that he wanted to leave behind had to do with financial literacy and being able to share the knowledge of finances, not only with the youth, but his community as well. And similarly, Dre in San Diego here shared that relating to financial freedom and really focusing not just within her own family, as well as kind of sharing that knowledge with others as well, and seeing the impacts that that can have in terms of freeing somebody's life, right? And not necessarily being stuck in living paycheck to paycheck, but really seeing that sharing that access to information can really break someone free from being stuck in a place. And then lastly, we had Faith in Zimbabwe share that the legacy that she wanted to leave behind also having to do with freedom as well, but included feeding her nation as well in there, and really thinking about access to food and her contribution in that relating to sustainable farming. And so that is the conversation that we had in our group, and everyone was very welcoming and sharing with each other.
All right, very cool. Thank you so much. All right. Nari, are you presenting or is the team presenting?
I'm going to give a very quick intro, and then one of the team members is going to present.
Okay.
So our question was how patience relates to our finances and to our legacy, whatever that might be. And so Deborah, Emmanuel, and Flavis all had really great answers to those questions because all three of them had a very clear vision of what kind of legacy they want to leave. And so Emmanuel is going to give us a brief overview of kind of what we talked about. It was a very interesting conversation. Let's see. Can you open up the mic?
Yeah, Emmanuel, can you open your mic, please? Open your, unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay, talking. Summarily, I want to give a summary of what we discussed. And Deborah, Emmanuel, I, and Flavis spoke. So generally what we talked about was about seed sowing and food. That concerning the issue of patience, if you want to get a great food, you want to get great wealth, you should be able to have great patience. So depending on the type of wealth that you want to make, you need to be very patient, because you know that whatsoever you want to accomplish in life takes time. And if you want to accomplish something very vivid, something short or something small, the patience that you need is might be small. But you want to do something great, have a great vision, you have to take a longer time to wait and collaborate to be able to obtain what you want. So, and secondly, Deborah talked about her own legacy. She said that she's more interested about in counseling, like to counsel people and open a counseling center that will enhance the life of our environment and people around. Then Flavis gave us also, she said that her own passion, her own legacy is that whosoever comes around her should be able to be happy and receive joy, because out of her belly she will be able to bring out whatsoever the solution to the problems that the people are having. Then for me, the legacy I talked about, I said mostly is in the level of health and spirituality, because that's my own domain and my own domain. So I said, as a science student, biochemist, I'm interested in natural science, health. That I would really like to encourage organic living, because today in our time we're having serious struggles with the type of food that we consume. There's a lot of problems. So because of that, we have a lot of cardiovascular diseases that are coming up, cancerous disease due to free radicals and stuff. So if we can encourage, especially in Africa and out of the world, the consumption of natural products, and depending also on traditional and natural medicine, we are going to solve a lot of problems and reduce sickness. Yeah. So, and secondly, I said in my domain of wealth, I would like to influence many people and change the life of people from poverty to riches, because a lot of problems that we have today is somehow related to financial problems. So we are financially strong, we can be able to solve a lot of numerous problems in life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was great from everyone. I want to go back and share, because there's a common theme that everyone is talking about, which I think it's captured in here. I'm going to read the bolded area. It says, forget your own selves and turn your eyes toward your neighbor. Bend your energies to whatever may foster the education of men. Nothing is or can ever be hidden from God. If we follow in his way, his incalculable and imperishable blessings will be showered upon you. Because we are all talking about, I mean, the theme is, we are not talking about starting a business just for our own benefit. It seems like everyone has this notion of being a service to humanity. That's what we're talking about. And from a personal experience, I can definitely say that this has been this program from the time my wife and I started 15 years ago. we have totally seen the incalculable and imperishable blessings, because we are working with you, we are working with a lot of people to bring not only this education, but a lot of other things into our communities. I also want to comment on a couple of notes that was mentioned. One was from Daniela about starting a business and not being patient. That is true. A lot of people, when they start a venture, they think that, oh, it's going to become fruitful so quickly, and maybe put a lot of effort and time and money into it, but not really have the plan. My personal thing has been, I've been involved with several startups, not only Mind Treasures, but several profitable startups. And it's like, we have to think about 5 or 7 years for any venture to become successful. That's been the rule that I have set for myself. Something that Dree said when I was visiting the different classrooms that caught my ears was, she said, not everyone can be an entrepreneur. And that is, I think, is definitely true. While everyone thinks that others can be entrepreneur and it can be taught, it's something that is within us, maybe it may or may not be. But we can all make a difference in everybody's life. Being a service to humanity, I think everybody can do that. And as we progress through the program, you will see that how we can use our creativity and talents and passion to help serve humanity. And I really want to give a shout out to our friends in Cameroon. I hope you all had a chance to watch the short video that they created. That song was great. It was done by Elsie, Deborah, and Agape, if I'm not mistaken. So I couldn't stop at crying. I mean, that was, it's like, we do the talent show on the last day, but you took the initiative, you created that song. It just captured everything that you did. So I was so touched by it. We'll be sharing that with our global group on WhatsApp because that is going to help energize people. And it's so amazing in there. Let's see, what else? I think that's all for this session. So we have 7 minutes. Our friends in BOA usually have a energizers for us. Do you guys have an energizer for this hour, or are we just going to take a break?
Take a break.
Take a break.
Take a break? Okay, all right. So we have a 7-minute break. We'll come back in 7 minutes and we'll get into moderation and balance. All right, enjoy your break, guys. Stand up, walk around, get some.
For those of you that have heard moderation before, what does it mean to you? So go ahead and put that in the chat. And if you haven't heard of moderation before, that's okay. But I wanted to kind of get people thinking about the word moderation and what that means. So go ahead and put that in the chat while I pull up what we are going to share. And I will share my screen. Right. So I will read out loud while we're waiting for some of you to share. Moderation is creating a healthy balance in your life between work and play, rest and exercise. You don't overdo or get swept away by the things that you like. You use your self-discipline to take charge of your life and your time. So in the chat, I see that we have Janam said to avoid extremes, right? So moderation is about, to Janam, is about staying away from maybe some extreme situations or some, and that can be related to finances. We're going to be talking about different things in our life, not just finances, and then seeing how that relates to finances. But it's really about balance. When we teach this lesson in the classroom, we usually have a scale that we use, and in that scale, we put in different chips that have to do with different aspects of our life. And so we are able to see if our lives are in balance or not. And we're going to do that activity a little bit differently virtually. so that we can start to think about what we're using our time on and whether or not our lives are in balance or not. And in the chat, we have Elliot say moderation is to be cautious, right? So really thinking about how you are spending your time and what you're doing and how that relates to work and how it relates to play and how it relates to resting and exercising, because all these things are important and we need to have time to do all of them. We can't just spend all of our time working. We can't spend all of our time just playing. We need to try and find that balance so that we don't overdo any particular area, because we can end up having some negative impacts on our life if we do. Janam also says to be balanced, and Daniela says moderation means balance. You guys are getting it, right? So I want to see, for those of you that did activity 3 as part of your homework, go ahead and put in the chat. This is kind of our time budget journal. We think through what we're spending our time on, right? So on this left-hand side under the column where it says activity, it's about what are the activities that you're doing throughout your day, right? So for the youth, we might have some homework or some playing of different games. We also have adults on, so some of your activities, it can include work, right? Also cooking dinner, if there's reading, there's all these different examples. So I want to open that up in the chat and see what were some of the activities that you guys filled in. And if you didn't do this activity yet, that's okay. You can kind of be engaged with us as we are sharing now. And for those of you that have the in-person workbook for our friends in Cameroon, you can feel free to open your mic and share as well if there is a couple of activities that you had already done as part of this. So John Paul says patience is also vital. Yeah, we just finished that lesson on patience. And so patience definitely relates to moderation because you have to be able, the two are related. You have to be able to have patience to be able to allocate certain time amounts to different things and not wanting to spend all of the time in one particular area. So Elliot says on Monday, but I don't know what the activity is that you're doing on Monday, Elliot, so maybe put that in the chat. Janam says cooking on Sunday. So Janam does cooking on Sunday, and that is one of the activities that Janam does. I know I also cook as well, and I cook probably several days throughout the week. It's something that I enjoy. So Elliot has shared Monday is work from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Tuesday is work from 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and then Bible studies from 6 to 8. So a little bit more detail in this time budget journal. You guys will see that there's a column for B and a column for A. We usually don't get too much into that, but I will explain it. So the B column is for budgeting. So thinking through, do I plan to do this activity on this day a week? And then the A is for the in actuality, did you actually do that activity that day of the week? So just comparing what you plan to do versus what you actually do. And so that way you can see how much time you're spending in different areas and how that compares to what the amount of time that you plan to spend in certain areas. Juliana says on Saturday, I have a drawing class. Janam says Tuesday to increase life skills. Okay. So there has to be a particular activity, Janam, that you're doing to increase those life skills. Maybe you're taking a class, right? And how much does that class take and the amount of time that you allocate towards that? All right. So when we do this activity, we start to see which of these activities have to do with work and which of these activities have to do with play, right? And we normally have different colored chips for the work versus the play, and then we put them on the scale and we're able to see if our lives are in balance, right? And sometimes we get balances that look like this, right? And so when you get a balance scale that looks like this in the chat, if you think that this is balanced, put yes. If you think that this is imbalance, put no. Okay, I'm seeing lots of no's. Very good, right? A balance scale that looks like this is not in balance, right? And so when we start to think about what is causing this scale to be in balance, it might be that on the left side here, we have more chips or we're spending more time on work, right? So if we have more time in work and not as much time in things that we do for play or enjoy, that can be good, but it could also be bad, right? We probably are being very productive, or hopefully we're being very productive if we're spending a lot of time in the work area. Doesn't always equate to productivity. Sometimes we can spend a lot of time in work and not be as productive, right? But thinking through this exercise and the amount of time that we're putting in that area, if we're spending a lot of time in work and not as much time in play, and our balance looks like this, then there can be some negative impacts there, right? So we want to make sure our goal is for the scale to be balanced, to be even across, right? And because if we don't want to have negative impacts on our life, and some of those negative impacts, if we're spending a lot of time in work, can lead to lots of stress, right? And stress can cause you a lot of health impacts that where you're getting headaches or you're always run down and feeling really tired, right? It's very important that we also are doing things that we like to do for fun and taking time to rest and exercise. All of those things are important. And so that time budget journal really helps us think about how much time that we're spending in these different areas. And I'm going to challenge you to see in the reverse, right? So if we had a balance scale that looked like this, it's a little bit different than the scale that we were looking at before, right? Is this balanced? In the chat, put yes if you think yes, and it put no if you think no, right? If we had a scale that looked like this, it's a little bit different than the scale before, and I'm seeing lots of no's, very good. This would be in the other direction, right? So if we were spending lots of our time on play, right? So say we have youth on, so if you like to play video games, I know Janam says playing cricket, right? So that would be something that maybe start out as something for play, but Janam wants to do it professionally, so then it could turn into work, right? But if we're spending lots of time playing, then we might not have enough time to get our work done. And we have a later lesson about responsibilities, right? And making sure that we are taking care of those responsibilities, because our responsibilities are our own. They're not someone else's, and we take care of our own responsibilities. If we don't do them, no one else is going to do them for us, right? So if we're spending all of this time in play and we don't have enough time to get the things that we need to get done for work, right? Or for the youth that are on for homework, right? Reading, doing work to make sure that your brain is learning. Those are things that we need to make sure that we have time for, right? But if we have a scale that's tipped in this way, where we're spending too much time in play and not enough time in work, doing this exercise makes us aware, right? And so we might not be aware of how much time we're spending in a particular area. And so this exercise allows us to see, okay, these are the things that I'm doing throughout my day, and this is how much time that I'm spending in this particular area, and we can make adjustments, right? None of us are perfect. We might spend lots of time. I know Alex mentioned earlier about kind of the time trap of social media, right? And being online, and before you know it, you could spend hours and hours, and you're like, how? I just got on to check something really quick, and here I am an hour and a half or 2 hours later, right? Or watching videos on YouTube or whatever it is that you might do online. And so there's these different time traps that we might have in our life. And so this exercise really allows us to keep track and be aware of it and see, okay, this is what I want to, how much time I want to spend in this particular area. And this is how much that I'm actually doing. And we can make adjustments so that we can be more balanced. And the other exercise that we do in learning about moderation is we do what is called a shopping list. And in that shopping list, we think about going grocery shopping, right? And in the chat, go ahead and put in, if you have ever used a grocery list yourself, say yes. Or if, for those of you that are youth that might not have gone grocery shopping on your own yet, if you've seen someone in your family use a grocery shopping, go ahead and put yes in the chat, right? I'm seeing some yeses. Janam saying yes. Elliot saying yes. Yvonne says yes, but not successfully. right? And though sometimes that happens, right? We have goals, and sometimes what our actions do not necessarily match what the goals intended to be, but we learn from them, right? And everything is a learning experience, and we start to see what our actions are actually doing. Juliana says, yes, I have used one too. Han says, especially at Costco. Yeah, Costco is definitely a place where you want to make sure you have a list, right? Because if you don't, there's lots of distractions in there, and you could end up buying a whole bunch of stuff. And for those of us that aren't familiar what Costco is, it is a large wholesale retailer that has a bunch of everything in it. And from food to household products, and it's just like a huge warehouse, and you go in and you have these long aisles that are full lots of things that you can get. I think someone sneezed, so bless you to whoever that was. But it's easy to get distracted, and so if you don't go into Costco with a list, you can end up buying a whole bunch of stuff that you don't need. I know I have done that before, and you get home and you're like, why did I buy this? And so having lists can be really helpful. And so in this activity number 2, we create this shopping list, and we start thinking about what it might take to feed our family for a week. So we think through breakfast, and we think through lunch, and we think through dinner, and what is it that our family eats throughout a week. And just to give us an example, and we try not to fill up the list with a bunch of junk food, right? So we try and make sure that we are eating healthy, and creating a shopping list that is going to be nourishing to our bodies and good for our bodies. And thinking through actual meals, right? So a lot of times the students, when we teach this part, they'll say, well, we eat spaghetti. So they'll write spaghetti down as on their shopping list, and not necessarily thinking through what are the ingredients that it takes to make spaghetti. Because yes, you can these days walk into a grocery store and buy already pre-made spaghetti, but we want to encourage, okay, these are the ingredients that it takes to make spaghetti. So you might need some pasta and maybe some pasta sauce, and some sort of, if you eat meat, you might want to include some sort of meat in there. And so thinking through breaking down the different items that it takes to eat some of the meals that their family eats for a week. And then this is about planning. So then in a later lesson, we actually do grocery shopping, and we start to see, okay, how much of each of these items are we consuming throughout the week, and the costs that are associated with that. And the reason that we do that is because, just like we talked about a few moments ago, of creating balance in the different activities in our life, this also relates to not just what we're putting into our bodies and finding moderation between different food categories, but also the decisions that we make about money. It is very, very important that we start to have moderation in all these different aspects of our life. And I see in the chat, Daniela has says, yes, but not as complete as this one with the prices. It's difficult because here the prices change all the time. And Daniela is in South Africa. So that is something that we have here as well. In the US, we have ads that come to our houses in the mail about different sales that are going on for each of the stores each week. And in those marketing advertisements, there's a lot of different ways that that a company will choose to advertise towards you. And we start to see the truthfulness or the lack thereof that are in those marketing and advertisements, and certain things that might be on sale some weeks, and then when they're not on sale, the price is more than double. And so and you see that a lot with fresh produce, right? Certain times of the year, certain produce will be in season, and then certain times of the year it won't be in season, and the prices will definitely fluctuate for that as well. But in doing this activity, really seeing kind of the breaking down of the shopping list, and how that also relates to the decisions that we make in our finances. So we also want to have that same balance in terms of the 4 decisions that we make, that we teach through this curriculum, are save, invest, share, and spend, right? And so really thinking through each of those 4 categories: save, invest, share, and spend, and finding a balance between each of those categories, making sure in the spend category that we're taking care of our life necessities, and we're doing that up front, right? And then thinking through, okay, what investments do we want to make and how much we're putting into that category? How much do we want to share with others that might be less fortunate than us? And then how much do we want to save for, just in the lesson that we talked about, some of the things that you guys want, right? I remember Elliot said he wanted a laptop, right? So how much money do we want to put towards the items that we want to save for? And finding moderation and a balance between all of those, right? It is very important, not just in how much time that we spend in certain areas, but in the financial decisions that we make, that we also find that similar balance, because the goal is to have moderation and to have there be a balance amongst others. We don't want to save all of our money and not spend any of it, because then we could get into trouble. Like in the spend category, we have the life necessities. If we don't spend actual money that we need for water, clothing, food, shelter, we could be in some serious trouble. But in the same respect, we don't want to spend all of our money and then not save any of it, right? And so really trying to find a balance between all of those 4 different categories. In the chat, I'm seeing Daniela says, what we do has a limit. What we do have is a limit. We know what is the max that can be spent on each grocery shopping. Okay, so I think what I'm understanding from Daniela is, like, there's a certain amount of money that is set for grocery shopping, and they set that a certain amount of money, and then they have to figure out which items are they going to get in order to meet what they need within that certain amount. So that's similar to a budget, right? You set a budgeted amount. This is how much we're going to spend on groceries. And then the list can help you stay organized. So then when you go into the grocery store, you don't get distracted by some things that might not necessarily be the best choice in terms of staying within that budget. So you won't get distracted by buying a bunch of junk food that then will put you over that budgeted amount. And that sometimes can be hard. Temptation is very easy, especially in the way that grocery stores are set up. I know I can be walking down an aisle and get distracted. And usually ice cream is my guilty pleasure. And so if I see ice cream in a grocery store, it doesn't matter what I'm in there for, I usually end up walking out with some. So I'm also seeing in the chat, John Paul says, here they work on scarcity and that pushes prices up as well. Yes, for sure, right? So if you have a scarce resource, supply and demand, right? So the more limited the resources, the higher the price is going to be. In the chat, we have Daniela saying, when we haven't got a list, we always ended up spending more. Yes, very, very true, right? So having a list can keep you organized and make sure that you don't end up spending more than you need to. And then John Paul says, it has been easier for us now that we shop online. Okay, so probably going through the pandemic, right? Not doing as much in-person shopping. John Paul is saying in the chat that it's allowed him to stay more in line with only getting the things that might be needed. And that is a benefit maybe of the pandemic, of not being distracted by the items that are in the store, because it's very easy to get distracted and be tempted by those things. And so I will go ahead and open up the breakout rooms for us to go into. But before I do that, I want to make sure I also include the last 2 comments we had in the chat. So Elliot said, well, the list usually depends on how many people are in the house. We are a big family, so when the full house is here, we increase the shopping list. That makes sense. More people, more food is needed, right? And it's good that you're making those adjustments, right? So you don't need as much food maybe when there's not as many people there. So you're able to make those adjustments as needed. And then John Paul says, when we used to shop in the store, you always go over the budget. Yeah, because there's lots of distractions in the store. Very simple. We're all human, right? We get tempted very easily. And product packaging is probably the biggest. They use bright colors and things to catch your eye, and those things definitely contribute to being distracted and cause you to be easily going over budget. And impulse buying, Elliot, very true. All right, so in opening up the breakout rooms, I will stop sharing now, and going back to the rooms that you were in. I won't switch the rooms, but I will just remind the facilitators that it goes along with the questions that are on the schedule. So which room you are in, and you can go ahead and click on the breakout rooms to join.
Jay, before we go into the breakout room, so we'll make this one. I had to recreate because we had several new friends join in.
Okay.
So things have shuffled. And
I can add.
So we will do 10 minutes this time because we want to come back and talk about keeping track of our income and expenses. So this breakout room will be only 10 minutes.
Okay. Do you want me to add some?
You can go ahead and or I already recreated. I mean, it's a good shuffle. So.
Oh, you already reshuffled?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So here you guys go.
So you're going to take notes on everybody that's sharing their contribution to this discussion, and then you can relate that to the rest of the group when we go back. So I will need you, Victor, to call on people because you know everyone's name. And I want each one of you to tell us if you keep track of your personal family expenses and incomes.
Family expenses, personal family.
Hello, I'm Flavia. Yeah, because and I believe that that's why we are here, because there are times we take some things for granted. You know, we know that when you have the money, you can spend it when you like, how you like, whenever you like. So at times.
Awesome. Let's see. Who else wants to share with us? That's a great example. Risto, Castori, let's see. Who else have we not heard from? Daniela, you want to share how balance?
Yes, get it.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, I can
Great.
share. Balance, or I must say the lack of balance has been very challenging for me. And balancing, I think that's a lot I have to work on, because sometimes I've taken more work than my body actually should. And the price of that has been my health and also my relationships around, because I become very moody or irritable, and so the quality of my family time goes down.
Stuffed bell peppers. So, but I'll go and forget what the ingredients are for stuffed bell peppers, makes me have to go back to the store or buy something that I didn't need. So just creating lists for shopping, creating lists for activities. I create events in San Diego. I have a group called San Diego Black Professionals. So I have a lot of lists that I need to create, and I have not been creating them properly. So my goal is to create a list every week and then check the list at night, so I know what I'm dealing with for the next day. That is what I'm focusing in on for 2021, is staying on target with that.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing. I know staying on to lists can be hard, especially we talk about time, right? And allocating time, and just a couple of minutes to jot down some things and think through, okay, this is what I actually need, can make a huge difference. And none of us are perfect, right? We all are learning through as we have different experiences. But the goal is really trying to find as much balance as we can throughout the different aspects of our life. Emmanuel has in the chat, I will read out loud to everyone. My challenge is speaking to my budget I think my challenge in sticking to my budget is the fact in my country prices change rapidly and your income doesn't in proportion to the changes in the price. This creates a lot of difficulty in hitting your target. I try to bridge this gap, trying to have multiple incomes, but even at that, it is difficult to meet all of your list. So just cover the list of time I can cover and carry the others over. So what Emmanuel is saying is that and I don't know which country Emmanuel is, and maybe you could put that in the chat so we can all have a better understanding, but they're in that country, and Emmanuel's in Nigeria. Okay, so in Nigeria, Emmanuel is saying that prices there fluctuate very rapidly, right? And your income might not fluctuate as rapidly in proportion to that price fluctuation. And that makes it really hard to stay, as we're talking about, on task with your list that you have budgeted. And so you might not be able to get everything because the prices have gone higher, and what you budgeted, then those prices changed. And so you might not have enough money for that. And so there's some items that might get carried over to another list because you don't have as much money to cover the things of what you budgeted for because of all those price fluctuations. Thank you for sharing that. That can definitely have a huge impact of you saying on task with your budget. And John Paul messaged me to read the question again. So I will. What, if any, is a challenge in creating or sticking to a budget for your finances? What is one way that you might overcome that challenge? And so I will kind of challenge Emmanuel in Nigeria. What is one way that you might be able to overcome those price fluctuations? What might you be able to do to make sure that regardless of the prices that might fluctuate that you don't have control over, right? What is one way that you might overcome that so that you don't end up having to carry over some of those items to a different time, and make sure that you're able to get everything that you need? Because remember, these lists is about the needs, right? So it's not necessarily something that you might want, because that's a different category. That's what we save for. All right, Jean-Paul has hand raised. Go ahead and share, Jean-Paul.
Yeah, one of the things that I have is time. I mean, time is a key factor. At the moment now with the pandemic, we are homeschooling and we're also working from home. And managing time to get everything done in a day is very, very challenging. And with 4 kids, it's something that I need to work on, because at the end of the day, you do feel drained, and you never feel that you've actually accomplished what you wanted to do. So for me, the main thing is about time, and feeling that if setting time, the ways I can overcome it is to block out time and set time specifically according to what I need, and also like setting tasks or goals that I want to achieve for that day, and then blocking out everything else and making sure that I stick to that time to accomplish it. If I don't finish it, then I think I would attempt to do it again later on.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, blocking out time will and trying to make sure that you're as productive during that time, and limit the distractions as much as possible, but also being flexible to make adjustments that if you're not able to finish it, then kind of returning back to it at another time, but not allowing it to suck and drain, and then you spend half of the day doing that. So we have 1 more minute, so I want to make sure we get to Jinam. Janam asked me to reread the question. If we don't have enough time to share, it's okay. Just make sure you write down your answers, because it's really helpful to think through these and reflect upon them. So the question is, what, if any, is a challenge in creating or sticking to a budget for your finances? What is one way that you might
All right, is everyone back? Every time we come back, I feel like we lose a few friends. There we go. Okay, it takes them a little while to come back. All right, I went around different rooms, and it seems like, as always, there was a lot of great conversation about budgeting and balancing and creating lists, and based on experience and working with a lot of people, for some is a lot easier to give up their lives than to create a budget and create a balance in life. And I'm saying that I really mean it, as we will see. It's a difficult thing, because we get just swept away. This is what our desires do. Our desires, as I think somebody mentioned, we think that we're going to go on Facebook for 2 minutes, but then we're there for hours. We think that we can do multiple things, but really we have only certain amount of time. So let's go ahead and get the reports from different rooms. Nari, like to?
Okay, and I'll give the report for our group because we got cut off before I could talk someone into it. So, well, yeah, we just ran out of time. We were having a really good conversation. So Elliot said he felt an imbalance versus being productive, and it affected his money because he was not working when he was doing other things, that he should have been focused more on work, and he wasn't as focused. He was like doing video games and stuff. And once he got focused, he saw an increase in finances and in accomplishing the things he wanted to accomplish. Epity said at one point she had 3 to 4 different income sources. And then she had one that was, a primary one that was a salary that she could count on. And she ended up focusing her time there and kind of dropping the side jobs and neglecting those. And then when the salary position ended up not coming through the way it had in the past, she realized that God had provided her with these extra sources for the times when the primary source maybe let her down. And so she had to kind of refocus herself and realize that she did need to bring back some of those side jobs and just have the focus. And she said she got better with tools and scheduling so that she could manage having the multiple responsibilities. Daniela is balancing kids. She's working at home and she's got 4 little ones, and that it affects, wait, is that Daniela? I feel like I'm on the wrong person. Oh yeah, the work-family balance, and that she would like to take on more work, but then it affects, the relationships and the kids. And so she's got to figure out ways to have the same amount of energy, but be efficient in both. And also, we encouraged her not to beat herself up. You're just in a situation where you're never going to be perfect. You can't be the perfect mom and the perfect employee at the exact same time. You'll have your days where you're the perfect mom, your days where you're the perfect employee, but it may not happen on the same day all the time. What we realized is a lot of times we want to multitask, but you can only do one task at a time. And so you've got to pick, this is the task I'm doing for the next 30 minutes or the next day or whatever it is, and move on to another task. But don't try to fool yourself into thinking you're really going to accomplish 3 things at the exact same time.
All right, very good. Thank you so much. So while we'll hear the other reports from the other rooms, I'm gonna put a question in the chat. It's like, what tools? So we know that it's important to keep track of our income and expenses and our budget, and we'll get more into it. But while the presentations are happening, think about and respond to it. What tools have you used to keep track of your income and expenses? All right, Irma, would you like to go next? You're muted.
Yes, I was with Victor's group, and he assigned the discussion notes to one of the members of the group. And that was a lot better because, I have intermittent sound. So if Victor could please introduce the young lady who is taking notes. The question was, do you keep track of your family/personal expenses? Is Victor here?
Yep.
Okay, we had a great chat here, and Glory is going to present our results. Glory, please, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. For us, in our chat room, according to the question as per Emma asked, it was, I would say 99% of us don't actually keep track of our income or expenses, but some people gave reasons because they're accountable to themselves, so they can actually spend anyhow. And considering our African context, we get to realize how families, aunties, also it's actually difficult to kind of keep track. But hopefully, and since we are here to learn, we're trying to keep up on that to see how we can learn on keeping our income and expenses. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Jade.
Okay, so the question that we had is, what, if any, is a challenge in creating or sticking to a budget for your finances? What is one way that you might overcome that challenge? And so we had lots of people share, and most of it was in response to sticking to the budget, right? It wasn't necessarily in creating the budget, but it was once the budget is created or that list is created, sticking to that. And so first we had Yvonne in Canada said that sticking to the list is the hardest part, right? There's lots of distractions that can happen. And there's bargains and sales really being a huge challenge, right? And so we had kind of talked about, you might only need one item, but if you buy 2, then you have it on sale, right? But you don't necessarily need 2. And so you end up spending the money for 2 because you think that you're getting a deal, But if you never end up using that second item, then you've just paid more for one, right? Because that second item will just sit there, it could go bad, right? And then you have gotten marketed to buy something that you didn't need. And then she said a way of overcoming that was she's become a coupon clipper and she's using the Honey app. And the key for her has really been about doing the research beforehand, right? And that planning and organizing process, really to focus on keeping herself accountable and sticking to that list. And Dree in San Diego also shared with us that kind of sticking to that list has also been a challenge as well. She runs an independent living house, and so there's lots of lists that she creates in terms of not just for grocery shopping, but for activities and for things that different members of the house might want to do, and really kind of overcoming the challenge of not being able to stick to that list is also in line with really kind of allocating some time to just put down the list, right? And thinking through what are the needs that it's going to take to make a certain meal or to do a certain activity, and really kind of mentally thinking through that and allowing her brain to process it so that she is able to be more successful in sticking to it. Emmanuel in Nigeria shared with us price fluctuations in their country being a huge challenge, right? And so you might budget for a certain amount that you might need to buy certain items on a grocery list, but what you budgeted, the prices that you used for that budget, their price in their country might fluctuate because of scarcity, right? And supply and demand. You have a limited amount of supply, then the price shoots up. And then with the amount that you thought you might need to buy that item has changed. And so you might not be able to get all of the things on your list because of those price fluctuations. And then that some items might end up being carried over to other lists at a later time because you no longer have enough money because of those price fluctuations. And you didn't budget enough. And so one way of overcoming those price fluctuations, we had some people share is prioritizing, right? And maybe taking into account a buffer zone in those price fluctuations in your budget, right? So giving yourself a little bit more fluctuation and the amount that you budget. So it's not a hard set price, but maybe a give or take a little bit on each side in case you might end up spending less, right? Or might end up spending more. And so that gives you a little bit more room to work with to make sure that you can get all the items that you might need despite price fluctuations that might happen in your country. And then last, we had John Paul share with us about time being a challenge, right? And John Paul in South Africa has 4 kids. And so really trying to block a certain amount of time to be able to organize and create a list that is definitely a challenge, and overcoming that challenge has really been about when he has a certain set amount of time, really focusing and limiting the distractions as much as possible and achieving what he is set out to do during that period of time. And then if he's not able to, then returning back to it at a different period, but not allowing himself to get kind of sucked into that one particular activity and then not end up being successful. And before he knows it, he's spent a bunch of time and not as efficient as he would have liked to been. So really blocking that time, focusing and limiting the distractions as much as possible, and being as productive during that period, and then returning back to it if he's not able, making that adjustment to return back to it if needed at a later time.
All right, very cool. Thank you so much. So we can see that there is a theme that's happening in here. Again, it's all about keeping track of our income and expenses. And once you do that, again, is the most difficult part of our finances. And it's something that we'll start talking about it here, but developing that process is going to take some time. Sometimes it will take friends, maybe 6 months to a year to 2 years. And we have had even friends that contacted us like 10 years ago, and they still have not been able to do that. Some of it, it's psychological. It's about putting stuff on somewhere where we can see. Unfortunately, we cannot do this. That's why I asked in the chat, I asked 2 questions. One is, what tools have you used to keep track of your income and expenses? And if anyone thinks that it can be done in our brain, I don't think it, I have not been able to see anyone who can do it. It's just too many details. I also asked our youth if they receive pocket money or allowance, because our youth, our young youth, they are not managing income and expenses, but they can start developing those habits. So I'm going to share my screen. There are tools within your worksheets that you can use, both adults and our young youth, to begin to develop this process. The first step is actually, we've been asking everyone to do their assignments, and that is a part of this. It's not the assignments. When you do your assignments online, I mean, we love to see your responses, but it's not for our benefit, it's for your own benefit and getting into this habit. And I noticed that some friends were doing their assignments as late as this morning, and that is not healthy either. We need to develop that habit of doing our assignments, our tasks in a timely manner. That's part of being punctual. That's part of not procrastinating and not waiting until the last minute. If we don't have time, then we need to create some time. We need to allocate some time. Finances is not something that it can just happen in the background. We need to free up some time in our weekly, monthly lives to pay attention to finances. So for our youth, if you are receiving allowance or pocket money, if not, that's something that you need to have a conversation with your parents. We highly recommend it because our society now, even from young age, we need to deal with money. So if you, once you have that conversation with your parents and they agree to give you a pocket money or allowance, an amount doesn't really matter. You can keep track of it in the register book that is within your worksheet. So the register books works fairly simple. So let's say today I receive an allowance of, let's say, $20. And this is what I think Jade was talking about, the different categories that we can allocate our money to. I'm gonna make this a little larger. So of course, when you're young, we are not spending any money, but it's a good habit to begin start thinking about it. It's like, how would we start pretending? How would we spend our money? And spending money could be for something that's life necessity. So, and as you put numbers in here, the sheet will give you some feedback. Then as we read, once we secure our life necessities, it's about thinking about forgetting about ourselves and thinking about others. So I want to share something in here. It doesn't matter what time, what stage of life we're in, we're always planning for the future, for the next stage. So investing for a college, a business, or into our community. I can do something like that. I can do $4 in here. And then finally, I want to buy this iPhone. We already set that goal of how long it's going to take me and why is it. So now I get to start actually saving for it. So this is how the online worksheet, the register book works. This is mainly for our youth that receive allowance or pocket money. Now, for our adults that are actually dealing with money, I'm going to go back in here into our table of contents. So we're going to start, if you have not keep track of your income and expenses, we really recommend you start doing it by using this sheet. So from the table of content, you can go into your weekly income and expenses. It can be done either weekly or monthly. It's up to you how you want to do it. But this is a great way of beginning to get into the habit of knowing how much money is coming to your pocket and where is it going. So, and we started this, I set it up actually from February 5. We can always change this, and this can be changed into monthly also, I think still works. I have not used the monthly function. Yes, it can be either done as monthly or weekly. So let's start with the weekly. So let's say if I have a job and I receive, let's say 500, whatever the currency is. And then, so that is my income for this week. And then I'm going to go down here. So obviously I have some expenses. Maybe I'm paying rent. So $100 I paid for rent. Now, of course, we don't pay rent every week, but we do pay that every 4 weeks. So if I pay rent on February 5, then on March 5, most likely I will have to pay rent again. Certain expenses are fixed. So our rent is usually fixed. Our phone could be fixed. So let's say if I pay $10 for my phone and then another $10 for internet, those are the ones that are easy to remember. What gets us into trouble are these categories. Supermarket, because it changes. And as our friends mentioned, prices fluctuate. Yes, that is something that we have absolutely no control over. But by doing this, we can keep track of and make the necessary adjustments. So if I spend $50 in supermarket, and then I felt like going out to eat, I'm just gonna put another $20 in here. Okay. So I'm doing good in here. If we have a car, there are automobile expenses. There is petroleum, there is maintenance, there's all kinds of stuff in here. So this sheet will keep track of it for you. So the way it works, it started with 500 in your income for the week. Now, of course, we don't get paid weekly, so we have to make sure that we don't spend all of that 500 in the first week. So far we've spent 190, and the sheet is automatically letting you that you still have $310 left, 310 left. So that's how it works. But this will help you get into the habit of recording. Now, this is one way of keeping track of our finances. There are apps, different types of apps, and depending on what country you're in, some of the apps can connect directly, like in US and Canada. I know there are apps that can connect directly to your bank accounts or credit card and bring in all of those into one location so we can see. There's this sheet. At the minimum, you need to have, and I think we did put it in there for our friends in Cameroon, there's a sheet that was printed. At the minimum, you need to write it on a piece of paper. Don't try to keep track of it in your mind. It's just impossible to do that. So this is going to be an ongoing assignment for everyone from now on. So for the next 3 or 4 weeks that we're doing the program, every week we want you to begin recording how much income you have and then how you spend it in the week. And this is a habit that is going to get developed over time. If you're in a family situation, for example, our family, John Paul and Daniela, only one of you will have to do this. And I have already started a conversation with Daniela about this on the side. It doesn't have to be both people. When we are in a family, both people have to look at it, have to see what's happening, but then only one person needs to be in charge of this. So I know Genome has a question. I'm going to stop sharing this. Before I get to your question, Genome, and this is the same way that it works for a business. So if we have a business and we have partners, we need to keep track of what's happening and what's going on. All right, Genome, go ahead. You have a question.
Yeah, I don't get any pocket money or something like that. So how do I fill those register books?
Okay, so if you don't do that, don't worry about the register book. Maybe what you can do, you can work with your parents if they allow you for you to do the income and expense tracking for them. So use the other sheet because that will be a good exercise for you to learn the system. So have a conversation with your parents and see if it's okay for you to keep track of their income and expenses.
Okay.
All right, okay. Let's see, there are questions in the chat, I guess, or there are comments in the chat. I get to keep, all right. Daniela, I have used, Daniela says she hasn't used any tools. We definitely need to do that. Yvonne says, I created Excel and I use Mint. Yes, Yvonne, Mint is one that I know it works in US and Canada. It's a very great tool. It connects with our bank accounts, credit cards, whatever we have. So we really need to use that. For other countries, there might be similar apps. I don't know. Okay. So those are all the questions. Any other thing before we take a break? I think we're good. We'll take a 7-minute break. We'll start 5 after the hour. How's that? And we'll continue the conversation. All right, I'm back in 7 minutes, guys. So our friends in Cameroon didn't offer us coffee today. What's going on? No refreshments.
We do
Your, your connection is really bad today. Barely heard what you said. All right, welcome back everyone to the third hour of today's session. We're going to start this hour is about responsibility and accountability, which is basis of our borrowing system. And I think it's a nice segue from creating a budget, because often if we don't have enough to pay for our stuff, we may think about borrowing. So with that, Nari, you have the floor. You're muted. There you go.
There we go. All righty. Welcome back, everyone. And so we're going to dig into a couple more topics today, kind of building on what we've talked about already this morning. And we are going to talk about responsibility and accountability. And hopefully some of you went into the book into your workbook and started the assignments here, because these are assignments that really do affect your daily life. They're not just an assignment just for the class. And I would definitely encourage you to try to at least look at the assignments and maybe start them. You don't have to finish them, but start them before the class each week, so that when we go in, it'll be easier for us to have a discussion about it. And also you can bring in any questions that came to you as you were attempting to do the assignment. So I just wanted to put that out there to you. So we're going to be talking.
Nari, before you go on, there's a question. Daniel had a question, sorry, about previous session.
Okay.
It says,
Sure.
We don't receive income on weekly basis, but on monthly. I'm not sure. So as I mentioned, the worksheet can be set up to do monthly or weekly, or you can break if you receive 500 for the whole month, you can break it into 4 weeks. So you can get creative in there. It's just the habit that is the most important to develop. Sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. Yeah, so you can definitely customize that for your schedule of when you receive your income. Right. So what we're going to do, Alex, are you sharing the screen or am I?
I can share my screen.
Okay, great.
Let's see. I wasn't ready for it, but I can do it.
So I kind of took the liberty of pretending I was one of you, and I did my homework so that we could see a completed form. And awesome. Okay, so we're starting with responsibility. What I'd love for someone, I typed a couple questions into the chat about these treasures and how they relate to our finances, what they have to do with it. I think that is probably pretty obvious to a lot of us that have had to deal with finances, that we need to be responsible and accountable. But I'd like to ask, before we get into the details of the spreadsheet of the book, what's the difference between responsibility and accountability? Because those are two words that sometimes we hear them and sometimes they're used interchangeably, but they do actually have a different meaning. So can someone tell me what they think the difference is between those? And Alex, hopefully maybe you can either unmute someone if they want to, if their hand is up, or if they have something in the chat, we can read that.
I'm trying to get my chat up. I don't know, when I share, usually my chat disappears. So,
See, chat was working fine for me.
Yeah,
I was about to say, I bet.
I can read it. So Janam in India has said responsibility, duty to do your job, and accountability, explain your actions or decisions.
Okay, good. That's actually a good way to think about it. Yeah, our opening for this one says that being responsible means others can trust us to do things with excellence. You accept accountability for your actions. And so responsibility means there's something specific that you've been assigned or that you've said you would do or that someone's expecting you to do. And accountability is when you're basically held accountable, when you're expected by someone or something to do that. So it can be simple when you're young, you've got the responsibility of feeding the dog. Well, if the dog gets hungry, the dog is going to hold you accountable. The dog is going to start, pulling on your leg, pointing to his bowl. Your parents are going to hold you accountable. Hey, why didn't the dog get fed? So accountability is where someone else or something is holding us accountable. So yes, Janam, accountability basically can come after responsibility, because if you don't have any responsibilities, then you're not held accountable for anything. Your teacher holds you accountable for completing the responsibility of doing your homework, that kind of thing. Or your parents might hold you accountable for the responsibility of making your bed. So that's a good way to put it. Accountability comes after responsibility. Our bill collectors hold us accountable to pay the bills that we're responsible for as adults. Hopefully, Janam, you don't have to worry about that today. Okay, so the first activity which you would have looked at, and it will kind of remind you of what we looked at the last lesson in terms of a list. And this is just a list that you would make, and I just put some of the examples of some of the things we see in class when we're working with our students. And it's a list of your chores, your responsibilities in your home. So these are your responsibilities at home, and it's everything, from cleaning your bedroom or cleaning the kitchen, doing homework, mowing the lawn, washing the car, feeding the dog, paying bills. So it can be any of those items, and obviously there's room for more. But what you're doing is you're actually making a budget, and you're saying that, clean my bedroom might be once a week. So I might mark under B on Saturday for clean my bedroom. But clean the kitchen, yeah, thanks, great. But clean the kitchen might have to be done every weekday. But let's say I don't have to do it every day because I alternate either with a sibling or a married couple. Maybe one person cooks so the other person cleans. So let's say I only have to clean the kitchen Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because I'm not responsible for it every single day of the week. And then if you're a student, you probably have to do homework every day. The lawn might only have to get mowed once a week or even less. Washing the car, same thing. That might only be on a Saturday or something. Feeding the dog is probably an everyday thing. Someone's probably got to feed the dog every day. Paying bills might only be once a month. So you might mark it only on like Saturday or something. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Jade. So yeah, so homework we would put every day, Monday through Friday, let's say. And then just for sake of example, let's say we mow the lawn every Saturday. Our poor grass never gets a chance to grow a single inch. We keep it perfectly manicured. And same with washing the car. We wash our car every Saturday. We decided, oh no, you were right on the mowing the lawn. That was perfect. Now feeding the dog, I think we should probably budget that we feed the dog every day. The dog would appreciate that.
I think probably we can just feed the dog once a week. I mean, things are expensive now. I mean, our friends in Africa are saying that things get so dogs have to get on with the program too.
Okay, these are spoiled American dogs and they eat every day. I'm just gonna tell you. They are not happy if they don't get fed every day. Okay, paying bills, let's make that every Saturday. And it may not be the same bill, but let's say once a week we check and make sure all of our bills are paid. We check in Mint and see where we are with our bill pay. So we know what our plan is, because the B's are kind of like our plan of how to deal with our responsibilities. Then what we would do, and we could update this once a week, and then what we would do is every day as we complete items, the A becomes our checklist of whether we did what we planned. So under A on Sunday, I could mark whether I cleaned my bedroom or not. Or I'd mark whether I cleaned the kitchen or not. And that's where I put my X on Sunday. Under that A column is where, nah, I'm not cleaning my bedroom on Sunday. That's not happening. It's a day of rest, Alex.
All right.
I will clean the kitchen unless we go out. And I won't do any homework. I won't mow the lawn. I gotta feed the dog. The dog will get fed. That'll be the other thing I'll do on Sunday. I'll feed the dog. Okay, now let's move to Monday though. Monday's a little more intense. So on Monday, I realized that I really didn't ever clean my room over the weekend and it's messy. So I do clean my bedroom Monday under the A. And I do have to clean the kitchen, and I'm doing my homework, and I'm feeding the dog. So you all can see how this would work, how you would, we've got a couple people who raised their hands. Okay. see.
All right, it's Juliana. Juliana, go ahead.
Yes.
You want to say something?
Yes, I can't do my homework because I can't edit it.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Okay.
And Jinom, you had your hand
No,
up.
I meant I cannot do my homework because I can't type.
That's
Got
okay.
it.
I worked with your dad, so
Okay,
that is
good.
fixed. You should be able to do your assignment from now on.
Perfect.
But
Okay,
I'll
she
talk to you.
needed,
Yes.
she needed to be able to edit.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So going forward, you'll be able to do it. You should be fine. And if
Thanks.
not, yell at Alex. Okay. Let's do one more and then we'll move on because I think you can get it. And so then let's say Tuesday, my bedroom's clean and I talk someone else. I don't have to do the kitchen on that day. I do some homework. And so under Tuesday, under A, let's say I did my homework and I came home and realized that the dog was filthy because he rolled in the mud. So I ended up having to wash the dog, even though it wasn't budgeted to wash the dog. No, I'm sorry. I was washing the dog instead of the car. Okay, yeah, so I had to add that. All right, so you can see how you can keep track of your responsibilities. You can keep track of knowing every time you get a new responsibility, add it to the list. And when you complete a responsibility, you can mark that you completed it. And this is a great way for the family to kind of be able to discuss the chores. Okay, let's scroll down a little bit more because for instance, one of my chores is clean the bedroom. Now, actually, I filled one in, great. So let's say one of my chores is washing the dishes. Now, I don't know about some of the other parents here, but I know for a fact, raising children, that you can say something as simple as wash dishes. And what you think you said when you said wash dishes is maybe not what they heard when they heard wash dishes, because you'll go into the kitchen later and you're like, I told you to wash the dishes. And they're like, I did. And then you have to explain to them what you mean by wash the dishes. And so here's where you can take responsibilities, each responsibility, and really break down what the different steps are to make sure that then you can be held accountable or you can hold someone else accountable. So that when I'm told to wash the dishes, I'm actually going to be held accountable for gathering the dirty dishes, scraping them into the garbage, filling the sink with the hot water and soap, washing those dishes, rinsing them off, drying those dishes, putting them away, and cleaning the counters. That's what my mom meant when she said wash dishes. And that's what my children know I mean when I say wash dishes. Someone else can mean something else. But this is where you actually can list each element of the responsibility. And once you do that, you can actually be held responsible or hold someone responsible. You can't really hold someone responsible for something or hold them accountable if they didn't understand what they were signing up for. And so you could do the same thing with doing homework. You can do the same thing with paying bills. You kind of make sure you know, well, what are the steps to do that? And that way you'll know whether you really met your responsibilities or not. Like I said, this is great for something for the family to talk about so that everyone's on the same page. And it helps with your communication and there won't be as much, conflict as you figure that out. Now, I think some things are in the chat. Don't want to miss anything in the chat.
Yeah, Juliana says she cleans her room and then she says she used to wash dishes. So hopefully you can still continue doing that. I'd like to add something in here, Larry, if you don't mind. So the reason that we do this particular exercise of breaking down the responsibility, yes, it may seem simple that we do dishes, if we don't do it right, we do it. But the main reason we do this is as we grow older, our responsibilities become more complex. Now they're not about washing dishes anymore. They're not about feeding the dog. So let's say, for example, we want to start a business. Well, that is a huge responsibility. So itemizing, writing down the different things that needs to happen in a business is very important. Many people get very excited. They have an idea, they have a creative mind, they create something in their mind, or they can physically create, it's either a service or something. And they feel like, oh, this is something that people are going to buy and I can make a lot of money from it. And not coming up with the plan. It's like, what are the different aspects? How am I going to advertise this? How am I going to make sure that I don't spend more than what is needed? So that's why we're doing this, for understanding our responsibilities. Another example could be when we're living with our parents, or maybe when we rent. Paying rent is a lot simpler than when somebody or a family wants to buy a piece of land or build a house, because that is a lot more responsibility. So, and that's why we do this. So we break down the different elements of responsibility.
And it also helps even when you maybe get a new job. From doing this, you'll ask the right questions, so you'll know what your boss is expecting of you. And when you're a supervisor or a manager and you're hiring someone, this will help you explain to them what's going to be expected of them. Once you get yourself kind of in this mindset of what's it mean? What is this? What am I saying when I give this responsibility? You know, if I tell someone, okay, well, every week you have to reconcile the books, you might want to explain to them what that sounded really simple until you explain to them what you meant by that, etc. Okay. All right.
So we got about 8 minutes.
Yes. So we're going to quickly get through this.
Yep.
So then this leads us, then we have our responsibilities, and this is a great opportunity for you to think about some of the things Alex has already brought up. We have responsibilities at home, at school, our neighborhoods. And so there are some different challenges you might see out in your community. There might be challenges you see at home. There could be challenges at school. At your job, and then for you to actually identify some challenges and then try to come up with some solutions for those challenges. Okay, great. Now we want to quickly go to the accountability page.
Actually, not. Let's just focus on this.
You feel like, okay, good, because we kind of, what accountability means, so we may not have to go over there. We can use this.
So I'm putting a question in the chat because this is very important, about asking what are some of the challenges in their community. So please.
Yeah, that was my first question.
Okay. So what are some of the challenges that you can think of that you can begin to work on together as teams, or just what are some of the challenges? It could be something simple. Let's not think about world peace yet. That's
exactly, yeah. Keep it something very local, something that you see in your community or in your sphere of influence.
So either in the chat or if anybody wants to open up their mic.
Okay, cleanliness. And Janam, what do you mean by cleanliness? We could take that a lot of ways.
I think having traveled in India and Pakistan, I think I have a pretty good idea what she means by cleanliness.
Yeah, like sanitation type situations.
Just overall, there's a lot that can happen. Things that we take for granted here in US doesn't necessarily exist in other parts of the world.
Right. Okay. Yeah, sanitation and garbage disposal. And that is a real challenge. And it's more of a societal challenge. It's not even like just personal challenge. But we've got some people here who've been thinking about these sorts of things. In the chat, would someone like to put some ideas around that? The mindset needs to be changed. So what are some actual solutions? What are some things we can suggest to Janam about how to change mindsets, how to change those mindsets, to change some behaviors? So what mindset would people need to have? And you might have to unmute to tell us, what kind of mindset do you think would improve that situation?
So while we're thinking about that, everybody in our team knows about my pet peeve with these things, plastic
Yes.
bottle waters. Just
Yeah,
the
you
way-
always have an example there, Alex.
I have to. I mean, this is my pet peeve. You know, plastic is my pet peeve. I've even found a new way to recycle plastic bags. So the environment is something that we are not even being concerned with. We are.
I think a lot of people are concerned with it. It's a very big topic.
That they
A
are,
lot of
but-
people are concerned.
But I think they say it, but they don't do it actually. Often there's tons of examples in here. So maybe that's something that can't remember. What are the questions for our breakouts? Because we're gonna start breakouts in
Oh,
2
yes.
minutes.
Yeah. So we're gonna get ready to go into our breakouts. But did we get some additional suggestions for Janam in the chat?
I don't see anything. I don't see
Okay.
anything in the chat. Nobody else. Maybe,
Okay.
maybe in the breakouts. I think that would be a good opportunity to talk about those in the breakouts.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Mhm.
Oh, no, the mindset needs to be changed if you know the benefits. So, yeah, so there might have to be some education on sanitation. It can reduce disease. It can make where you live, more pleasant. And so there could be some education, but then there might also have to be some tools provided, whether it's a place to put the trash that people are then educated in. Here's where we're going to put it instead of in the street. Some kind of mechanism for trash to get picked up more often. So there might be some things that have to be put in place to support that change.
I want to share, I shared with Victor over the weekend, I was talking to him and he was surprised when I shared with him that often when we go to primary schools, our 4th and 5th grade students cannot even spell their own names. That was a surprise to him, but we often see that when we do go into the classroom. So just thinking that United States is a advanced country, there's still a lot of challenges just in our primary schools. Because the resources are limited. You would think that that problem should not exist in here, but that's one of the major problems that we have with our school systems.
Yes.
That I can share. All right, so why don't we go into our breakouts and we'll do 10 minutes again and we'll come back because I think people will have, so we can also talk about next week and other stuff. All right,
Okay.
so I'm going to stop sharing.
Great.
And please join your breakout. I don't think I need to change anything. Nobody is. All right. Actually, they're only if we, okay, I'll just break that.
Okay, room 2.
All right.
Just a second, Alex.
Oh, there's some.
I just wanted to look at my question first.
Okay.
Alex, for some reason, I'm no longer the co-host.
Yep,
I don't have,
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna send you, let's see, Nari is there. I'm gonna send you to room number 3.
thank you.
Mhm. So,
Check, right? So I'm responsible for facilitating a class. Well, then Alex is responsible for paying, right? And so he's going to hold me accountable to teach. I'm going to hold him accountable to pay. So that's in that relationship of whenever we get hired to work, or when we provide a service, a good or a service, there's always that sense of responsibility and accountability. That makes sense? And we should think about that. We don't always think about it that way. And there's times where we might say we suggest something to, we might make it a commitment for our time. You know, we say we're going to volunteer our time somewhere, and then the day comes and we're like, oh, I'm too busy, I can't do it. Well, we should be held accountable because we took on the responsibility of that charity work or that volunteer work. So there are those things. Let's see, Risto. Oh, Elliot, yes, you have something to add there.
Well, with accountability, what I realized is to have like somebody who is mature or older than us who can just be there to check
on time and prompt in any activity you're carrying out.
Excellent.
Okay, I'm Elsie. Quality is being able to complete a required task or obligation at a particular time.
Very good. And seeing how our lesson today was about responsibility and accountability. And let's always think about how punctuality fits in with responsibility. Isn't punctuality an element, a part of being responsible? Because when we are responsible, we want to carry out those things, those tasks, but not only carry them out, but carry them out in a timely manner. Doing the tasks and being accountable for punctuality is very, very important, because how we manage our time, it all fits in. We are tracking our time. We're making sure we have enough time to finish our
Others, whether it be train or educate other people, if you are not accountable to yourself first. All right, John Paul also has his hand raised that he would like to share. Go ahead.
I completely agree. I do feel accountable for the decisions that is made. I sometimes do tend to have a downfall in that side, that I sometimes am more concerned about others than myself, and try and base my decisions around other people, or other opportunities, not about myself. So I do see it does impact the decisions we make and the way forward, and that does make us accountable for the decisions we make has a different outcome. So I've started to focus a lot onto myself, and now also to my family, and to make the decisions that better impacts us. So yeah, I completely agree about taking accountability for our actions and our decisions that we make in everyday lives.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that, John Paul. I will challenge you guys that what is one way that you might be able to hold yourself accountable? Because I think we're all in agreement here. I think that no one has said no, that we are not accountable to ourselves. Everyone has said yes. So what might be one way that we might be able to hold ourselves more accountable? And I know Dree already mentioned she has an accountability partner. That is something that she has implemented into her life to help her be more accountable to herself. Does anyone else have any other recommendations of what might be a way that we might be able to hold ourselves more accountable? And if not, feel free to just kind of jot that down as something that you might want to think about, right? How might be a way that you might be able to hold yourselves more accountable that you aren't already doing? John Paul, did you want to say something?
All right, we're waiting for everyone to come back. I hope we didn't lose other friends.
I think we did because there weren't as many people in my breakout.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's connectivity issues
Yeah.
that sometimes happens, but yeah, okay, we're coming back.
Okay, Alex, we cut off mine though before I could get into borrowing.
Okay, that's fine, no problem.
Okay.
I mean, we'll do borrowing next week. I'll do it as part of, we'll do it as
a part of credit and that stuff. Okay.
We'll give the assignments. Okay.
Okay.
All right, very good. So Nari, since your mic is open, go ahead.
All right, great. Okay, we had a very great conversation that went from personal responsibility and accountability to family responsibility and accountability, all the way to community accountability and responsibility. And Elliot had a perfect example that would kind of go with where we ended the general conversation and where he kind of took us in our breakout. So Elliot is going to give you his example now.
Okay, so with us here in Cameroon, in our area here in Buea, it's been like 1 week we've been having difficulties in having potable water. So the government has done its own part in saying that we have potable water. So we, the community now, we have to take responsibility to ensure that the environment around where the water supply is coming from is always clean, so the water doesn't get polluted. So we, the community, we need to see how we can create cleanup campaigns either on a weekly basis or 2 weeks. We go make sure the environment is totally clean, is well protected from animals, because animals too can fall into it and pollute the whole environment, which would make the water very, very, very unhealthy for us to drink. And with us here in Cameroon, buying water it's not really that expensive, but the effect of the plastic bottles, getting rid of the plastic bottles after use, now that's another major problem, because where will we discard those bottles? We will still go and discard them back into our rivers, which will still make the water still unsafe for us. So we, the community, will need to take a great deal of responsibility in making sure that the facilities that the government has given to us are maintained and kept clean, because nobody will do that for us. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, that I thought was a perfect real world example of responsibility, accountability. So that's why I wanted Elliot to share that with us.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. Jay?
Okay, so in my breakout room, or the question that we responded to was, do you feel you are accountable to yourself? And explain either why or why not. So we had consensus that everyone agreed that they felt that they were accountable to themselves. And personal accountability was something that everyone felt like existed for them. Whether or not they were achieving it or were having some challenges, different people shared with us their experiences. And so Jinam in India talked about really having that accountability for themselves to be honest with themselves about what it is that they are accomplishing or they aren't accomplishing. So that way adjustments can be made if they're not being as productive as they would like to be. And then Dree here in San Diego shared with us the element of control, right? And having that also relate to being personally accountable. And we had a conversation about wanting to please others, right? And always thinking about other people before we think about ourselves, and making sure that other people are taken care of. And so that accountability, not just relying with other people, right? We talked about other people that you might be accountable to, whether it be your boss on a job or your family or feeding your dog, right? But really that accountability relying first within ourselves and being honest with ourselves and holding ourselves accountable before we are accountable to other people. And so that prioritization of being accountable to yourself before you think through, yes, I am also accountable to other people, but I'm first accountable to myself. And really being honest with yourself about what it is that you are accomplishing or not accomplishing in terms of your responsibilities. And through that conversation, we also talked about codependency. And so really kind of having the thought process of not just pleasing other people, but being your thinking being dependent upon whether or not other people are happy or pleased with your actions and how that affects you personally. And so really kind of breaking down that mental process of really it first comes to yourself first, because no matter what you are going to do, there are going to be people that might not be happy with your actions. And thinking about the things that you can, that element of control, the things that you can control versus what you can't control, and making sure that you're always showing up and doing your best and you're accountable to yourself first before other people. And then Daniel talked also about pleasing others and agreed that we are accountable to ourselves as well. And then John Paul also mentioned not just accountable to people, but opportunities, right? So there's different opportunities that you might want to be accountable to first before yourself, but really kind of prioritizing ourselves, which is, it might sound easy, like, yes, I need to prioritize myself before others, but it is hard to do in actuality. And so really kind of thinking through what are some of those things that we might be able to do to help ourselves make adjustments, to make ourselves more accountable to ourselves. And Dree had mentioned an accountability partner, and having that accountability partner help in terms of keeping on track with, this is what we say we want to do, this is what our actions are actually doing, and is there alignment there or is not, and where can we make adjustments so that we are more accountable to ourselves.
Very good. Thank you so much. Irma?
Yes, we had the group from Cameroon, and Victor selected one of the students to write notes about our discussion. So I'm turning it over to them.
All right.
Okay. I'm Desmond. Our group from Cameroon, we were talking on punctuality. And in Cameroon, we are really facing a serious task, a really serious problem when it comes to punctuality, being punctual for a meeting, being punctual for a class, being punctual for a workshop. So keeping time in Cameroon is really a problem. And in solving this, all participants, they gave their own definitions to punctuality, whereby everybody did mention of time conscious, and say if you're time conscious, you'll be able to achieve your objective. And when you're conscious and punctual, you'll be able to improve your profitability, your productivity, and your responsibility. So we say if we can improve on punctuality in every aspect, I think we are going to be the best when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to sharing ideas. So we are carrying this training now on punctuality to share and to integrate it in every situation, so that time should be respected, because when you respect time, you achieve your goals. So that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Again, great conversations. And there is a lot more that can happen. So I'm going to do a recap of a few things that we've done today. And as you can see, the topic of finances is not just about banking services. I mean, we just started looking at budgeting today, but it's a vast area that we need to learn and we need to develop. So I'm hoping that you can see that what we're presenting is just the introduction. We're introducing a lot of different topics that hopefully as families and as individuals and as groups, you will be able to continue to consult upon and come up with action items in here. So a few things that I wrote down. I know we talked a lot about punctuality, and just before we started this morning with a few friends that were online, we were talking about punctuality means a lot in only a few countries, such as like US, a few countries in Europe, Japan. Rest of the world, including where I come from, I'm from Iran, punctuality doesn't mean anything. And it's a cultural thing, just like the issue of cleanliness in India that Gina was talking about. A lot of things that needs to happen is a cultural change. That's going to take decades before it happens. But more and more people are realizing that we need to change our ways. We cannot continue with the way we used to do things in old ways. Another important point was that several people, even Elliot wrote that he says, well, since I started being accountable with my finances, I used my mother as my auditor. And Elliot is an accountant, so that's why he used the word auditor. I have realized that I do not spend money anymore without having a reason. Genome wrote in here, Mumbai, the city where I live, values and rewards punctuality. So setting up that system, finding a partner, whether you're in a family, in a couple, in a business partnership, or if you're just by yourself, if you're a single person, finding someone who's going to hold you accountable. And there is one other aspect that I'm going to share my screen so you can see, which is very important when it comes to our money and holding us accountable, is this thing of setting ourselves some kind of a limit of how much we can spend for different things. So the way this works is that I look and see, all right, myself, I feel comfortable that I can spend, let's say, up to $50 by myself. So if I'm out in the market, I want to see something, and these are not life necessities. We're not talking about food, which is the only one that we usually do. But let's say if I'm in the market and I see something that I like to buy, it's an impulse buying. Up to $50, I'm okay to make that purchase by myself. Then if it's something that's maybe over $50 or maybe over 100, then I may want to set myself and say, oh, I need to talk to someone about this before I make that purchase, whether it's my spouse or a friend or something like that. And then anything over, let's say, 1,000, I need to ask a professional. So maybe my partner or I cannot make that decision. So this is not about limiting ourselves, but it's setting like a check and balance system in place that I trust myself for purchases up to 50. I trust I need to consult with someone for purchases that are up to 100. And then anything over 1,000, I need to talk to somebody else, bring in a professional in there. So let's say if I want to buy a car, yes, I have my desires, but then maybe I need to talk to someone to see what's the best way of doing this. So creating someone or assigning someone to be accountable, to be your accountability partner it's very helpful, as Elliot and I think Yvonne mentioned in there. So I got that. Oh, and then with punctuality and doing things, we set example for other people, for our children. If we think, if we are not responsible ourselves, we cannot expect our children or people around us to be responsible or to be punctual. And that goes particularly with the assignments, the weekly assignments that we have. Again, I'm going back in there because the weekly assignments, it does not necessarily benefit us and our staff, but it's for you to develop this habit of doing them in a timely manner. Again, not 2 hours before the session or those who have not even started. We know that it's a difficult practice to develop, especially now that we're asking you to begin to keep track of your income and expenses, but we're here to help. We will try to encourage you as much as possible, but ultimately it is up to you. That is something that we cannot force anyone to do, but it's a habit that needs to be developed over time in there. Okay. Let me see what else we got on here. Oh, I need to just continue that. So we were on responsibility. All right, so I will put out the assignments for the lesson plans that we covered today. And today I will also open up the group chat so conversations can start happening. The videos take a lot of like 6 hours to process and post in there, and I don't want to wait until posting the assignments. And we will also, as you can see, I'm going to go into the So some of the lesson plans have videos that you can watch, and we don't have time to watch them here, but they're very important videos. So for today's 3 lessons, patience, responsibility, and accountability, there are videos, they're very short, they're like 3 to 5 minutes, but enhance the topic. Normally, when we do this in person, we watch the videos together, we have a conversation about it. But since we don't have time, you will do that on your own. So the team in Cameroon, you can do the watch the videos together and have conversation about those videos. Now, something I want to share about our friends in Cameroon, they have decided, if you remember, I'm not sure if we shared, but they were thinking of repeating this course for a new group of cohorts in June. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they have decided to run the program on their own. So they're going to do that. They feel comfortable. I think they're going to consult upon it today. And one of the reasons that we cannot participate in that, because they're starting 8 o'clock in the morning. They're doing it a 3-day session, 8 o'clock in the morning, which I think it's like 2 or 3 a.m. our time. I'm not getting up for that time. I don't think anybody else from San Diego wants to get up that time either. But it's really encouraging that not only they are grasping the material, but now they feel ready to present. And as you can see, the program is not difficult. It does not take much training. It takes practice to present it to other people. The way we present it in different settings is a little different. I'm going to share. So when we do this for our youth and children, we actually use a treasure box. This is a treasure box that we give every participant in schools that we go to. Here in San Diego, we do most of the programs at schools, in primary schools, from grade 3 and up. So every participant gets one of these treasure boxes that have the 4 slots in it. And then every time we present the same ideas that we've been presenting here, and we give it play money as allowance. So we give them $20 in play money. They're supposed to write it in the register book or in the online workbook, and then put it into the different slots in the treasure box. So this is how we help them learn all the concepts that we've been doing this. And hopefully this will become, we'll be able to do this in all around the world. I know several of the people that we're working with are trying to establish the system in their local community. And it's such a joy when we go, all of us, Irma, Nari, and Jade, we all go into the schools. We teach, we facilitate these sessions. We do about 60 to 90 minutes per week for each one of the lesson plans, because we don't go this fast. We actually take time. The participants write their answers either in the printed workbooks or the online worksheets. And it's a lot of joy. We watch the videos together. We have consultation. And then at the end, they even have an assembly where they present what they've learned to their parents, to their community. So it's a lot of fun working with our youth. And it's amazing how well they can grasp. And you can see this here. We have 2 young youth. Both of them, Genome is, she's not even a teenager yet. She just told us that she's 12. And Julia is 9. So you can see that this material can be presented to all different age groups, even in a multi-generational way. And the material is available to everyone at no cost. Everything that you see, well, the boxes, we cannot provide that. That you would have to, those who want to provide this in schools, they have to do it. But the material, the online worksheets, the printed workbooks, the soft copies are available to anyone who would like to do this in their local community. So before we run out of time, I want to talk a little bit about the lesson plans for next week, which is a continuation of today. So next Monday, the first hour, we're going to look at continuing with accountability and borrowing and credit. And if we get time, I don't think we'll get time for credit cards. The second hour is going to be about becoming thankful and respectful and our responsibility to the environment. We started talking about it a little bit today. And then the last one is about generosity, to first forgetting our own selves, becoming selfless, being generous to ourselves, to our own future, to our community, to our family, and eventually the entire world. And we're hoping that this program that we're doing, you can see that it's doable. We can reach out, especially now. I think one of the benefits of the pandemic was that now more and more people across the world have become closer together. Even time zones don't mean much. Everybody's getting comfortable in doing programs online. So let's see, I think I've touched upon all the points that I had. So I'm going to stop sharing. I will send the assignments in the group chat. I'm going to open it up. If anybody has any question or any other comments from our staff, I will stay on for a few minutes if anybody has any particular question. Don't mind answering that. So, anybody? Did we exhaust everyone? 3 hours? And again, my hats off go to everyone for staying in front of their screen for 3 hours, especially our youth. Juliana, Genome, you guys, everybody is great. So, okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Let's do all our assignments as much as we can during this